also hoping that he's taken what's being said about this team, and as the captain is going to go, let him talk, because we're going to show it on the ice.
I wonder, without Mitch Marner around, does that allow him to take even more of a grasp of this team? Because him and Marner kind of came in together, and I think Matthews was the correct choice, obviously, over Marner to give the keys to the kingdom to, give him the captaincy. But I wonder if deep down Matthews felt almost awkward or like he was stepping on toes, because they were kind of even, in terms of leadership-wise. They came in at the same time. They both grew up together, have had success together. I wonder if he felt like he held himself back a little bit from a leadership perspective when Mitch Marner was there. Now it almost feels like, and I only got that feeling because listening to Austin Matthews open up the press conference, felt like he was a little bit more loose, a little bit more assertive, like he was there to kind of be the leader of that group, the voice of the team, voice of the players, and it just seemed like he was less tense while doing it, almost like he's free to be that guy now, right? And even last year could have been an issue, taking it from John Tavares, where now it's been a full season. It's no longer an issue, but that was a thing that kind of went through my mind now. With Mitch being gone, does that allow Austin to maybe be a better leader as well?
I think even just vocally in the room too, like everyone talked about how much Mitch
controlled the music, right? Mitch controlled the music. He was around all the time. He was very talkative. Like there's a lot of
like the off ice, events that the team did, right? They already organized quite a few things. Like I think certainly there were players who gravitated towards Mitch, and Austin probably had a bit of respect for the fact that he's the franchise center, but maybe he felt also Mitch was an equal in terms of responsibilities and things like that, and having a voice as well. I do hope that with everything that's been going on, Matthews is obviously he's brought up how it's a tough thing to lose someone like Marner, but at the same time he's kind of talked about moving on as well. And he's, I think he understands that he has to be the one to, in a way, turn the page.
Yeah. Yep. And he's got to lead it, right? He's the captain. So he does have to lead the charge in the post-Marner era of the Toronto Maple Leafs. All right. When we come back, Tree Living spoke about the camp battles that will be ensuing. More bodies than there is seats, alluding to the depth that the team has. So we'll get that quote, his thoughts on Easton Cowan and his chances to make the team, and Anthony Stolarz apparently setting a deadline for contract extension talks. We'll tell you about that next on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
Most people can't name all their financial institutions, their accounts, or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. It does all the heavy lifting. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. And honestly, it might be tough to figure out where all your money is going if you have a bunch of different subscriptions and different bills you're paying for, and you're wondering, why is my bill, why am I spending so much each month? Well, Monarch allows you to take a look at all that, put it into different categories, and find ways to save. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNHL.
The Locked On Leafs podcast continues. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morsuti with you, reacting to day one of Maple Leafs training camp. No on-ice sessions yet, so that'll be tomorrow's show where we will be going through what the lines look like and who gets that top spot next to Matthews and Nyes. It sounds like it's not going to be Max Domi. He is going to be limited through the first couple of days at training camp. Do you have a guess as to maybe who takes that top spot later on today, Dave?
No idea.
I think it'll be Matthias Michelli. I know they said they didn't want him to take that spot right away, but that was also when Max Domi was an option. Now that he's not an option, that's the next best, I would think.
I can't wait for it to be, I don't know, or surprise. Calle Yarncroft's the guy. No, it's not Calle Yarncroft.
Yeah, it could be Calle Yarncroft. It could be. Like, honestly, that's not an awful suggestion. Calle Yarncroft and Austin Matthews have played together in the preseason when Calle first got to Toronto. I think he had a 20-goal season playing with Matthews for a couple of weeks there. Yeah. That's not an awful suggestion. But maybe Easton Cowan, maybe Nick Robertson. Maybe it's an opportunity for them to get Nicky Bobby, give him the first crack, give him the first shot as a veteran, a guy who's been there for a while to earn his keep, earn a role there. So I think there's going to be options. I'll be curious to see what that looks like. So make sure you check back tomorrow. We'll dissect what the On Ice product looks like and who gets the first shot to play with Austin Matthews and Matthew Nyes, and what the rest of the lineup looks like moving forward as we get through day number 1. So Brad Treliving was talking about how there's more bodies than seats. More bodies than seats this year, and that's alluding to the amount of competition he expects at camp. That top spot is a perfect example of the competition that will be ensuing. But there's a lot of bottom 6 players, a lot of depth players this season. There's more than 23 NHLers, I would say, on this roster. So it's going to be an important camp. And, to me, competition brings the best out of people. I'm expecting a hard, grueling camp, specifically for some of those guys in the bottom 6 trying to prove that they're worthy of that opening night roster spot.
Yeah, and he went on to say, like, doesn't matter if you're 20 years old or you're 35 years old. If you're contributing, you find a way to give us a good chance, you're going to make the team. Yep. And I know that was obviously a mention of Easton Cowan there. Craig Berube was not as enthused with kind of that idea, if you kind of just from how I kind of heard him talk about it. But I think it's the first season where I feel like there's going to be some very tough decisions that are going to have to be made in terms of players being put on waivers. Players are going to be told, you used to be able to say I had an NHL spot. Not anymore. Like, we're not penciling in David Kampf right now because, frankly, there's better options than David Kampf, and David Kampf has to actually show that he is still worthy of being on this team. And I'm sure he's probably like, this is new territory for me. And I think it's actually refreshing to see that we're going to have some legitimate battles for roster spots.
Yep. Like the two guys who have been kind of penciled in with the Leafs, Nick Robertson and David Kampf, on my lineup card, assuming everyone's healthy, they're sitting in the press box night 1 against the Montreal Canadiens on October 8th. So they're going to have to battle. They're going to have to prove that they are the best option for the Maple Leafs. And what Craig Berube said about that was, the 20 guys each night that gives them the best chance to win is who's going to make the team. So when asked about Easton Cowan, he said if he's the best fit for the team to help them win, then they'll put him in that position to play. But he's got to prove it. And so does Yarncroc, so does Nick Robertson, so does Bobby McMahon. Remember, Bobby McMahon didn't even start the year with the Leafs last year. So there's many players that are going to have to prove that they are worthy of being in this lineup each and every night. And even Steven Lorentz might not be a nightly guy for the team this year. He's going to have to keep performing to a high level, the level they need him to